Hey everybody, my name's Bob. This is my backyard. Back in the shop today, and I'm going to make the shelf for that rolling bench for the press. I'm going to make the shelf for it. Show you guys how I use the thickness planer. In the last video, so this is part 2 from the other video, I didn't really get a chance to show you the planer in action because it just didn't record right. So we're going to try again today. I'm going to show a couple easy things to do to help save on cleanup, because when you're making sawdust of any kind, it gets everywhere. And it's always hard to clean up afterwards. You're always blowing stuff off and everything. Dust gets everywhere and it makes for a pain. It makes it harder to keep things clean. And you don't want dust in anything if you're going to be staining it or that either, right? So I'm just going to check the camera. I'm going to make sure it recorded all this, and then we'll get on to the rest of it. Looks like everything's working okay this time. I'll continue to check it. Anyways, remember I showed you the waviness in the boards the last time. Let's see if I get the front camera to work. Okay, front camera's not going to cooperate, so you're going to get what you're going to get. So anyways, these are all cut out of the one board, and one side's reasonable, the other side's not. But we're going to plane them all down. These boards are 10 3/8. We checked them the other day with the moisture meter, but I can do it again. They are still sitting at 2.9. So, moisture really hasn't changed any. They're 1 3/8 thick. As I'm just going to dress them down until they're nice looking and any humps are out of them. Yeah, they might end up at 1 inch. They might end up at 1 1/8. I'm not too concerned. So when you're planing boards and you want to stop at a certain point, right? You got to check your stops on your planer. This is something so you don't make a mistake. All right? Maybe a better shot. Lower you down. Okay. So, I don't know how well you can see these numbers, but these things work. You push it down, push it over. I'm going to set it for 1 inch. That way, even if I go down below, I won't go below 1 inch. It'll just won't go any further. Okay. I've got, instead of using the dust collector, I made this come with this plug. Some dust collector pieces. Turn it into a 90. So if I am working on the dust collector, I could go straight up or straight down or out to either side, right? So I'm putting a bucket or a garbage can underneath the discharge side, and I'm going to set it there and let it go. Now, because these boards measure 1 3/8, I'm going to crank it down to 1 3/8. 1 3/8. So this is the point where you need to put your hearing protection on. We're going to plane these boards down and go from there. All right, you should see, oh, dust going down in the bottom. Okay, so that got all the planing done, and I was only, I don't know how well you'll tell in the video when after I edit it. Some of these knots, it was really struggling, and that's primarily because of the feed. The rollers have some gum on them, and they kind of slip a little bit, but the blade does pretty good. But what I should have told you before I started was, when you're making little blanks like this, you always want to cut them several inches longer than what you want, because, and I know you will not be able to see this in the video, in the camera, but about 2 inches in or so on each end, you're going to have a little dip, and that's mainly because these type of planers cause that to happen. And it is a small dip, but if you know it's going to happen and you want to make something that's, say, 38 inches, cut it, 40, 42, 44, and then run it through the planer and make it that way. And then when you cut it, you can cut the bad pieces out. And I don't really think it hurts to plane a little extra. And you always, you know what I mean, like you've got to plan that in your process. Like usually you always want to buy longer stuff than what you're going to need, because you're going to have bad spots in the board anyways. You need to be able to take care of that. Now that we got this part done and it's flat, instead of using a skill saw this time to straighten it, because I got one side that's fairly straight, I'm just going to do it on the table saw. And then once I got that really rough edge cut, I'll just flip it over and cut the other side. And then we'll go through the stack that way. And then we'll basically do that. And then I'm going to put the bench up on here that we're building and nail the boards down after I cut them to length. But we'll get it up on the table and cut it down. And time to put your ear protection back on again. And remember, yeah, it'd be nice to quit having to wear gloves while I'm working in the shop, that's for sure. Okay, dust collector. It's another set of headphones. Nothing lasts forever. The shelf we're going to put on is, I'm going to cut them 24 and go from there. So give me a minute, I'm going to cut these 3 pieces and I'll be right back. Okay, so I forgot to tell you, I think these boards finished out at 1.1 inches. So again, it's a workshop table. We're just going to line this up with the front of this member. Which side's the squares? Huh. You know how square we were the other day? I think we're a little bowed now. Huh. It'll be okay. Remember, workshop. This could be just kicked a little bit. Sitting on an uneven floor. There we go. That'll look good. Right like that. And then I'll cut the other one to fit. And we'll go from there. So, safety first. Always keep your fingers clear. Another thing, always make sure the nails you're using will not come out the other side, right? I'll just go around that. There's a problem, eh? It's going to be too short. Too short. So, what we'll probably end up having to do is take one of these offcuts, right? And I'll cut it down to fit in there. This is an old hammer. This one belonged to my dad. Now these things won't fall out. One shot. One shot. There you go. Now, I was thinking about putting another shelf in there, but I think I'm going to wait. Now, if I was super concerned, like I said, this is just a workshop table. Nothing major. If I was really concerned, this would have been made one solid piece, and I would have fastened all this in. But it can push and warp. It's going to just have oil jugs and scrap metal probably on it. I don't know what else. I got a couple of plastic totes kicking around that are always in the way. I got toolboxes that are always in the way. So we'll get something figured out. But there you have it. That's the workbench. It ain't special. It ain't pretty. It just is what it is. Now, for the haters that gotta hate. First off, I was only taking a 30/2 of an inch off these boards while they were going through, because these pine knots are tough, especially when you got a double knot in the one board. Double knot, triple knot, 4 knots in one spot, another one. So these are not top quality lumber. They're what I get from here on the property. So they are what they are, okay? That's one. So 2, I was not forcing anything through that machine any harder than I normally do. And like I said, the rollers are a little gummed up, and that causes some slippage, and that causes it to sometimes the blade to smoke a little bit, especially going through these knots. Anything that goes through a knot is going to give you an issue. And again, they are what they are. You gotta take your time with stuff. Don't rush. Follow all the safety rules that you're supposed to a certain point, because you're always going to find something you got to do that's going to go without it, and you never know what's going to happen then. But try to do your best. There's always room for improvement in everybody, even myself. But for a day's work on this, which is really what it should have taken me, a few hours as opposed to 2 days. But shit happens. And hopefully you like the content. I notice it seems to be not too bad for people. You know what I mean? Like, I picked up another subscriber, and thank you very much to whoever that was. I can't see who you are unless you have your own channel. Then I can see who you are. And you made it public. If you haven't made it public, can't see it. But yeah, this is going to be over there by that window, or underneath in front of that window, and hopefully in the next video in the shop you'll see the press on it. But that's pretty much it, except cleanup. So the weather's getting nicer. We're going to be headed into some more rain this week. So that's how things goes. Today's Wednesday. Wednesday, what day? What day of the week? Oh, it's Wednesday. Wednesday, the 4th of March. And I'm supposed to be picking up my truck tomorrow. If it's done, it's in getting safetied right now. We're waiting on some stuff. So, everything's good in the world. Everybody's fine. In my world anyways. I don't want to get too political on things, because that can turn a bunch of people off. Or turn them on, depending on who they are. I figure everybody's entitled to their opinion, and they can voice whatever opinion they have. I don't care if it's disagreement with mine, so long as they will let me voice mine, and we can have a discussion on it. If you're done discussing things, then we don't want to talk, right? Because nobody wants a one-sided conversation, even though you're listening to me one-sided right now. But all you got to do is put one foot in front of the other when you're doing a project. Keep going. Don't stop if you can help it. And if you do stop, try to pick up exactly where you left off. And hopefully, if there's any questions, like I say, these old planers, like they work great. You do have to watch for the chatter in the end, but usually it's nothing you can't sand out. But like I said, always make sure you're cutting longer than what you need so you can cut that excess off and go from there. That's just what it is. I'm thinking I got the bottom out of square a little bit on this because my top wasn't square, which is probably how it happened, because this is out one way, that's out one way, or the opposite way. So it sounds to me like when I took my 1/2 inch off this end, I didn't square it when I was building the top. But it is what it is. Anyways, you take care. We'll see you in the next video. And please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.